Hi, my name's Johnny Lawrence, your performance coach, and welcome to Life Talk. Life Talk is a self-development show where every episode I'll be speaking to someone who's knowledgeable and passionate about a certain topic in hope to help you with your self-development. So let's get to it. Hi, and welcome to another episode of Life Talk. Today, I am very, very happy to say that I'm here with Karolina, and she is from America, so she's got a wonderful American accent. How are you doing, Karolina?
I'm doing great, Johnny. Thanks so much for having me on the show.
Oh, no problem. I'm gonna start off right off the bat. I sort of introduce you as Karolina because I'm sad to say I cannot pronounce your surname. How is your wonderful surname pronounced?
No problem. It's Karolina Rzadkowolska. My parents immigrated from Poland in the 80s, so yeah, it's a lot. It's a hard language with a lot of different syllables in it that are hard to pronounce.
It's a very long word. And I wasn't going to sort of disrespect you or simply embarrass myself by by trying to pronounce it. So I'm glad you caught me there. As I explained on previous episodes, we're doing a little thing around sobriety in January. Lots of people might be looking to go sober or go dry for January. So I thought it would be lovely to speak to some people like yourself. Karolina is basically an alcohol-free life coach. She has the Euphoric, the podcast, and that's on Apple and Spotify, or is it just Apple?
Oh, both, yes.
Both. Oh, both, great. And you provide a few courses to help people out, and also you're a blogger, is that right?
That's all correct, yep.
Great. Do you want to talk a bit about your courses and about your coaching service and what exactly it is?
Absolutely. So when we approach removing something from our lives, whether you're going on a diet or you're trying to go alcohol free in January, so often where we get tripped up is what we're losing or what we're, taking out. And the thing to be able to change and make it this path easier and more guided is to be able to actually ask yourself, what thoughts and beliefs are setting me up to even crave this substance in the beginning, right? And so oftentimes you can just change the behavior. What you're really doing is leaving a vacuum because you never change the desire, right? And that's why it's really, really hard for people to go without alcohol for a stretch of time because changing the behavior leaves just deprivation. What you need to do is change your mindset. Your mindset is a construct of all these different beliefs, all this different conditioning you've gotten from society, all of these different things that you don't even know is going on. It's autopilot, right? Yeah. There's a study that shows that we have 60,000 thoughts every single day. 95% of those thoughts are repeat thoughts from the day before, and 80% are negative. And this is all happening in our subconscious. We don't have this conscious awareness of it. So it's 80%. These thoughts. Yeah. It's wow. These thoughts and beliefs really that are attuning our brain to crave alcohol in the first place. And we'll go deep into where these thoughts and beliefs came from. But when you can change the mindset by going through, a guided course or coaching, you can actually change the level of your desire. So it doesn't become something you can't do anymore. It becomes something you literally just have absolutely no interest in.
Wow.
I mean, how freeing is that?
That is freeing. Wow. Wow. Okay. So, I mean, I'm very curious. I'm sure everyone listening is curious as well. What is your sort of story? What was your journey towards sobriety? Sort of your why, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. And when I was really grappling with this question, there's so much information now out there. There's so many different organizations about promoting alcohol-free life as a healthy lifestyle choice. Yeah. But when I was going over these questions, I never heard, that didn't exist yet, right? And there was only one story I ever heard. It was, you drank all day, every day. You probably hid vodka in your closet. You hit rock bottom, you got in a car accident, DUI, whatever, and then you went to rehab and went to AA for the rest of your life. Wow. And, most people in the world do not have that exact story, right? And so to be able to even make changes in my life, I didn't think I was allowed to because I didn't want to be slapped with a label. I didn't want to everyone assume that this was me because it wasn't, right? The thing is that most of our drinking habits are actually in what's called this murky middle. There's this assumption that you're either a normal drinker or an alcoholic, right? And it's really black and white, but it's not true. It's not reality. It's not how most drinking habits lay on the spectrum. It's a huge, huge spectrum. And there's a lot of people in this gray, murky area. In the UK, your drinking health guidelines are super strict. They're a little stricter than they here in the States even. One drink, that's it, right? The units that you have. And the proportion of drinkers who are drinking regularly above the health guidelines is literally the majority of drinkers. So there's no black and white here. There's a huge gray area. And the story though that I thought that I had to be in the black to make changes kept me stuck for years. I was like, I knew I wasn't happy with the way alcohol showing up in my life, but I didn't want to be slapped with a label. My drinking, I was in my 20s. I'd gone through this in my 30th year. I was going out on the weekend with my friends. I was drinking maybe some wine on the weekend at home. I barely drank during the week, so it was really hard for me to think that what I was doing was all that atypical from everyone else in my age group at that time, right? And yet every Monday morning I woke up miserable. Every Monday morning I woke up depressed, low. I felt, I was trying to be a healthy person. I like to work out. I like to meditate. I like to read. I would make this progress every Monday through Thursday, and I felt good in my skin. And then every single weekend, all that progress was wiped away. I felt like I was living in a hamster wheel. I was making me crazy. And obviously, sometimes I drank more than I wanted to. I'd go to a party and I had these intentions. I'd tell myself, no more than 2 drinks tonight. I broke them. And the amount of times I broke them made me slowly lose trust in myself, made me erode my self-esteem in myself. And so I had so much internal stress about drinking. Even though I wasn't waking up drinking in the morning or anything like that, I had so much stress about it. And yet again, I was caught in the story that I wasn't allowed to make a change because I would be slapped with a label. Finally, thank God for public campaigns like Dry January. I heard of Dry January and I was like, this is what I can do. Like, I can do Dry January. Nobody's going to ask questions. It's not going to be this whole thing. I can just experiment. And I'm so, so grateful for that month, because that was the first month that I just let myself go 30 days without drinking. It wasn't necessarily easy.
That was going to be my first question.
There was like an ease to it, in the sense that all of that stress that had always been forming in my mind, the should I, shouldn't I, that, what did I say last night, or what am I going to do? How, all that mental gymnastics I was really playing all the time, it just slowly melted away. And I could just be in the present moment. I found myself going on hikes. I would play board games with my husband. I remember just like laughing with my niece. And there wasn't this like reward that I was constantly looking forward to. It was just like, I'm in the here and now, and this is like the beautiful experience I get to have now. And so it started awakening my brain in a way. And, when at the end of January, I was like, okay, well, that was great. But, normal adults have to drink. I can't just not drink. So I went back to drinking for the month of February. And the stark contrast of that month compared to the really blissful month I had in January was just more evidence for me that, maybe I'm not, maybe I've been there, done that. Maybe I don't like this lifestyle anymore. So I set off in late January to continue my alcohol-free journey. And I honestly haven't looked back since. And like, the life I've been able to create since then has literally been the life of my dreams.
What's been the benefits then, would you say? I mean, you mentioned some of the negatives there, what sounds like sort of very minor paranoia. What did I say last night? Did I make a fool of myself? All the things that I think, if everyone was honest, they all feel them feelings when they have a drink. They can't be exactly sure what they said. And then there's obviously the hangovers and the lack of motivation. You might be a little bit short of patience. You might lose a bit of sleep. So it's very obvious to see the negatives. But what's been the benefits, the positives of giving up drinking?
Absolutely. At first it was an immediate kind of physical benefit, right? Like my sleep. I mean, alcohol is such a horrible number on your sleep. Even 1 glass of wine reduces your REM cycles from about 5 to 6 a night to 1, right?
Oh.
So even if you're clocking in 8 hours, you're not actually getting the nurturing sleep you need. And I knew that, like intuitively, I knew that. I always felt worse after a drink or two and sleeping versus not. And so immediately I could feel this regained deep nurturing sleep that I was getting. I felt more energy. I felt just more like this momentum, the forward momentum. I wasn't constantly stopping myself, right? So I could eat better and work out more. And then really what, started happening is like I said, I started to feel joy in the present moment. Instead of looking forward for this better reward, I started feeling happier now. Alcohol really decreases our receptivity to dopamine. It lowers our serotonin. It lowers our GABA. And so when you're not drinking, life starts to feel apathetic and dull. And the opposite happens when you go alcohol free. You start to rebalance your neurotransmitters, And just daily life starts to give you this pure sense of joy again, this pure sense of appreciation and gratitude. I call my company Euphoric because it's literally how I felt my first few months alcohol free. But then it got bigger and bigger. It was more than just the energy and the positive feelings. I had to ask myself. I was a weekend drinker, basically. I had a job and then I lived for the weekend. Why was I drinking every weekend? Why was I so unfulfilled? It's really what was at the heart of it, right? I wasn't living the life that I wanted to live. And so I had to ask myself, what do I really want to do on this planet? Who am I? What are my true needs? What are my true desires? It was really an ability to come back to myself, to come back to home and ask myself these questions of self-discovery. And I found out, like, I want to be making a difference. I want to be helping people. I want to be expressing my gifts and talents. I had dreamed, for example, of writing a book ever since I was a little kid. And the entire time I was a drinker, I had complete writer's block. I could not write. I used to write as a child. I stopped writing in my teenage and then college years and onwards. And when I went alcohol free, I started picking up writing. If I hadn't done that today, I'm publishing a book next January 2022. It's like my dreams are coming true. I became an alcohol-free life coach. I started finding more purpose and meaning in my life and discovering my real passions. Alcohol tricks our brain because it releases an artificial level of dopamine. And so it tricks our brain into thinking that this is pleasurable and it feels good. But it's just like any other drug, right? Like heroin does the same thing, cocaine does the same thing. What organically brings us joy? That's a question that everybody deserves to ask.
I love that. I really do. I mean, did you ever get to the bottom? What was that reason for drinking? What was that trigger? What was it that it was giving you that you've now discovered yourself?
Honestly, I think I was playing small and getting comfort by staying in my comfort zone. Right. So instead of, writing the next great American novel, it was so much easier to just open a bottle of wine. Instead of actually putting myself out there and taking my fears and going for my dreams of becoming an entrepreneur and becoming a coach and all these things, it was so much more comfortable to just watch Netflix and drink wine. It was honestly a story of unfulfillment and a lot of fear. And I would have not been able to tell you this at that time, right? This is a lot of introspection, coaching myself that I've gone through. But in essence, it was an activity that kept me small, kept me withdrawn from life. Have a bad day, have a drink, completely withdraw from your mind, right? Yeah. Like you lose consciousness. And I'm not even talking about blacking out. I'm talking about you lose connection with your higher self when you drink. You just do. It was a complete withdrawal. And I think it was my coping mechanism that I developed. I was drinking socially. It was all looking normal, but it really was a coping mechanism to prevent me from shining brightly and going after what I really wanted in this planet and making it okay to settle and okay to be mediocre. And those are not things I ever wanted. And yet alcohol tricked me into thinking it was okay.
I mean, that almost sounds like procrastination, doesn't it? In a sense of that, sometimes we have tasks to do, goals to achieve, things we want to do. And at times, if we're not in the right headspace, those things will become utterly overwhelming to a point where it's just easier not to do it. And it sounds like when you say that, it was just easier to drink and have Netflix and just have that little hit, that little dopamine hit or whatever you want to call it. I mean, I can't imagine the level of soul searching you've had to do to have this sort of self-analysis is incredible. One of the things is you decided to give up alcohol, and I can imagine that was extremely hard, and that you had many interactions with friends where friends said to you, I'll just have one, or why can't you just have one, or don't be boring, or whatever. So that must have created some unhappiness, a bit of conflict. What had to change? What things did you have to change in your life to be happy and sober? Not just sober, not just alcohol free, but happy.
Absolutely. I mean, I had struggled with wanting to take breaks for years. Like before I took my first break with Dry January, I was actually experimenting by not drinking 1 week out of every month. So I was really toying with this idea. And this was the thing that always happened. I'd wake up on Monday. I'd be like, ugh, right? I feel horrible. I hate myself. I'm not going to drink this week. And then there was a game night. And then there was a sushi dinner. And then there was some dinner party. You know, like it was always these social events that literally like stopped me in my tracks and made me think, well, I can't do it now. I have this social event. This kept me stuck again for so long. I couldn't even fathom, you know, going out and socializing without having a drink. I mean, first of all, yeah, what are people going to think? What am I even going to say? You know, I couldn't even fathom that. But there was also a huge part of me that, this is what I love to say is, you know, for most of us, we have been drinking since we were teenagers. It's usually the time you get initiated into it. And there's all these different kind of reasons why you start drinking as a teenager. It could be to find a sense of independence, to be a rebel, to fit in, to become more sociable or more confident in that moment. And that's what it was for me. You know, I was a total introvert. I was very shy growing up. And when I discovered alcohol, it was like this magical elixir. I was like, okay, now I can turn into an extrovert. And what I did was I constantly outsourced my confidence to this fermented beverage in a glass. And I never developed it within myself, right? And I was using that for years and years and years, never looking back and asking myself, does this tool still meet my needs? Or am I a full functioning adult now who has the bravery to learn how to go out and socialize without alcohol, right? And so, you know, I was stuck in that for a long time. And when it came time to actually, when I was in my break from alcohol formally, and I was just going for it, I was so excited about the developments that were happening for me, all the benefits, my mind just changed. I stopped caring about what people thought. In fact, I started thinking about it as like the secret club that I discovered, you know, like this secret way of living. And I almost thought of myself as the lucky one. Like I'm the one who gets to come to this party, talk to you all, hang out and socialize, and I get to wake up tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. and run 4 miles. Nobody else who's drinking gets to do that. Like I get to live the life of more. And so as I like adopted that attitude, it actually became really confident to tell people I wasn't drinking or I don't drink or whatever it was. You know, I remember one time, like my first time, like it was my first few weeks, I think I said like I was on antibiotics or something. But after that, you know, I really started gaining the confidence about what to say. Like you have to just practice it. It might feel totally awkward at first, but you have to practice it. And it starts to even be like almost not so confident as like you're ever judging anyone or like, you know, being rude in that sense. But why do we always have to assume that drinking is normal? Like just by not drinking, you're standing up to that construct. You're being a sober rebel, you know, and you can get a lot of pride and confidence in that.
I had the pleasure of speaking with Mandy Manners from Love Sober. I'm not sure if you've, yeah. And she said a lot of the same things that you're saying about being a rebel, about alcohol being an elixir and all these sorts of things. So it's really interesting. It is like there's almost this awakening that must happen amongst sober people. That's like, why? You know,
It is.
And when, just hearing you speak, when you said I outsourced my life to this fermented beverage, it's just very much like, wow, that's really sensible. Like as in like a really good analysis. It doesn't make sense to do it when you think of it like that. Is it still difficult? I mean, how long's it been since you've been completely
so it's been almost 3 years for me, and I have to say, like, I feel like everything that was difficult was what came before. You know, when I was worried about this, I literally thought I was the only person on the planet. I don't know, that's naive, that doesn't make any sense, but that's how I felt, you know, because I didn't talk about it with anyone. I felt so isolated, you know, like you can go to your friends and say, you know, I'm really trying to lose weight or I'm trying to save some money, but talking about drinking less or not drinking at all, it's just not what we talk about. You know, we don't talk about our true feelings about alcohol with our friends. And so I was so isolated. I felt so much shame around it, so much guilt. I just thought it was broken. And I think that's the story, the narrative that is often tied to this issue. You know, 60% of drinkers misuse alcohol. So this is the majority of people. And yet we're made to believe that we are the broken ones and somehow something's wrong with us, not the drink, not the toxic beverage, not the addictive substance. It's working on our brains the exact way it was meant to. Our brains are responding to it the exact way it's meant to, scientifically. You give alcohol to rats or mice in a cage, like this is what happens, right? And instead we get this narrative that there's something wrong with the drink or not the drink. So all of that was the hard part. When I went alcohol free, I'd invested so much time, so much mental energy And so much of like that soul searching that I was talking about into really uncovering why I like to drink. Because if I could uncover all the reasons why I like to drink, I could take what I thought were really these constructs, these beliefs. You know, alcohol's been so romanticized in our society.
Mm.
Most of what we believe is not this truth. It's just a construct. You know, it's something that we believe that it serves us in benefits or it helps us evade pain. It's not, it's sometimes a very much an assumption, right? And so I learned so much about alcohol. I started debunking all of these things that I believed. I thought it helped me relax. Well, that's not what the science says. It actually releases cortisol in your body. I thought it helped me sleep. Yeah, right. You know, it's the REM cycles are crazy, you know? I thought that it made me fun. And so this was something that was a little more personal. I had to ask myself, if alcohol makes me fun, does that mean I'm not fun on my own? Does that mean intrinsically, authentically, I believe I'm not a fun person? Look how disempowering that belief is. And what does it serve me to believe that? Very disempowering. So I was literally unrooting all of these benefits and beliefs I had around alcohol, and I had to debunk them. And ever since I did that very, very, very methodically, it took time, I haven't craved alcohol ever since. And that's why I became an alcohol-free life coach. And I offer courses and coaching, is that this doesn't have to be something you're deprived of the rest of your life. This can literally be something you lose desire for.
Wow.
And then you go so happy because all that mental energy, that clarity in your brain can now focus on what really makes you happy on this planet. It can focus on your passions and your purpose. And a lot of times, a lot of women I work with, you feel stuck and aimless before, you don't know what you want. And then you remove the alcohol and all of a sudden, new ideas come to you, new sense of creativity comes to you. You start going out and having new experiences and pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. I've worked with women who have started writing their own books, who've become coaches themselves, who've launched businesses, who've launched nonprofits, who've done amazing things because they got so much clarity and passion. They crystallized when they removed the clouding kind of toxin of alcohol.
Wow, you make alcohol sound like a con man with a marketing degree. It's just like where are the benefits? It's insane. Wow, that's really, really, really cool to hear you say them things. Pretty speechless really on that. It all sounds very much like common sense. I almost wonder why anyone would at this stage. Speaking of common sense, what are some of the common sense strategies that you would give for somebody that's considering going alcohol free for January or considering sort of walking that path long term?
Yeah. Definitely wanting to stay positive and stay curious. You know, think of yourself as a scientist who's experimenting. You know, if you've been drinking since you're 18 or so, you have literally your whole adult life is only one data set, only one way of living. You have no idea what the other way feels like or looks like. So get curious about it. Allow yourself to collect data. Allow yourself to practice going to these social occasions. You think it's not going to be fun? Okay, well, go practice it. Go see for yourself. Don't just like lament that it's going to suck. Like actually experience what it's like to interact with other humans without drinking and see for yourself. You might feel that you make even more connections because you're present and you can listen better, you know? So stay positive, stay curious. Also recognize that, you know, alcohol is an anesthetic. Back in the day, it used to be used in surgeries as an anesthetic. So if it does one thing very well, it numbs your feelings, emotions, and thoughts. And without even knowing it, we come to use that as a coping mechanism. You know, you have a stressful day at work. Let's pour a glass of wine when you get home. And it feels like there's relief from those stress and those worries. You know, the thing that it's doing, though, is it's just suppressing it. You know, like when you wake up the next day, whatever you're stressed about is still there. And usually it's compounded because you don't feel very well. And you lose a little bit of stamina and belief in yourself to be able to handle your life. So like alcohol never, ever allows you to really manage and process your thoughts and feelings. It just shoves them down, 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 down. So depending on like what's been happening in your life, you could have a lot of pent up emotions that are coming up for you, a lot. And so you could feel all these different things and you want to be able to learn how to express your emotions in healthy ways. I have clients, for example, who get these stress balls. They're like workout balls. And so when they feel angry or resentful or whatever, just taken advantage of, they'll smash these smash balls and start releasing pent up anger, you know? I always recommend you feel sad or something happened, like cry it out, go cry, take a bath, like let yourself feel the full expression of your emotion. The thing is, our emotions are there to teach us things. They're there to show us what we really need, what our boundaries need to be, and where we can make shifts in our lives. Oftentimes we drink to cover up the fact that we're not quite satisfied with the way that our life is going. And maybe not in the whole, way, but maybe something's off. Maybe my relationship's here. Maybe I need deeper connections here. Maybe I need a more fulfilling job here. Maybe I wish I ate better here. These emotions are trying to show us where we can make those shifts. And it doesn't have to be like a night and day overhaul, but it's a guide. It's slowly showing you where you can make changes. And that's the other thing to get super excited about. I hate to think that someone removes alcohol from their life and then they, go on this crazy vegan diet and then they try to run 4 miles every day, trying to be like perfect and making all these changes. Alcohol is a keystone habit. So you want to focus number one on that, because that is it's like the domino effect. That one habit will change all your other habits. But allow yourself to get excited about that too. Like if alcohol never held you back, what kind of upward momentum would you create in your life? What would your health look like? How would you eat? How would you move your body? Would you read more at night, for example? Would you maybe start learning about something you've always been interested in? Maybe you'd start a website. Maybe you'd start a YouTube channel. There's all these kind of ideas that can come. You don't have to feel pressure to do them, but only almost a sense of like potential and possibility and expansion. You get so much mental time and energy freed up. So allow yourself to dream. Well, how am I going to use that? What's really going to fulfill me? What's going to bring me long-term contentment over this immediate gratification in a glass?
Wow. I literally don't know what to say. That's a lot of information, and I'm absolutely positive that people are going to get a lot of value from that. One question I did have is I've spoken recently to somebody about this topic as well, somebody else off camera, and they said that they'd done this and that they don't recommend that you have alcohol-free drinks in the sense of, like an alcohol-free wine or an alcohol-free beer or an alcohol-free cider, because it can sometimes continue the habit. But then on the other side, I've heard people say it's the only thing that got me through in the first few weeks or first few months. Because I suspect that if you have an alcohol-free beer, you're a lot less likely to get challenged on it, especially in the early days when you're not quite sure what you're going to say or whatever. What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, it's so funny that this is kind of still controversial, but back in the day, the only kind of people who usually gave up alcohol other than health reasons was you hit rock bottom. And so in the AA kind of methodologies, they taught that you should never replace these drinks because you were romanticizing alcohol, you're putting on such a pedestal, and you can't remove it from your life if you're still drinking these drinks. Plus, they can trigger you to actually drink the real thing. That has been kind of completely debunked now, because really, we have formed so many mental associations when it comes to a beverage, as we do a cookie, as we do a meal, we have these associations of how we want to feel pampered or treated or special, all through food and drinks. It's okay to decompress over a drink. Imagine though, if you just change the drink so that it's not a toxic one. So I fully believe that feeling deprived and like you're missing out is actually the number one reason people can't sustain this lifestyle. And if you replace your drinks with all of these incredible options, in the UK, they have so many, it's like the epicenter of it all. There's so many non-alcoholic wines, beers, and also all these kind of drinks that aren't even trying to mimic alcohol. Like they're just their own kind of category. For example, Euphorics here in the US, they have these like upper and downer drinks. They put adaptogens and nootropics in them. They're like these health drinks that give you like small effects from not anything psychosomatic, but just small little like health effects, like from mushrooms and just different herbs and stuff.
Wow.
How fun is that? So this is a world I think that it's exploding, and it's fun to experiment. So changing the habit, we have this theory of habit comes from Charles Duhigg, that our habits are composed of 3 different things. There's a cue. So your cue could be, okay, it's 5 p.m. or I'm out for dinner or it's vacation time, right? There's the activity, which is drinking itself. And then there's the reward. So that's this habit loop. You come home, it's 5 p.m., you have the drink, and then the reward is, okay, a little bit of dopamine in your brain in a sense of your worries kind of melting away. The key thing in changing your habits is not to try to willpower your way through a cue. The cues will never go away. They'll always be 5 p.m. They'll always be the vacation. The key in changing a habit loop is changing the activity. So you still get the same reward. So many people do that in different ways. Maybe they start running or doing yoga at that time. But imagine how easy it is just to pour a mocktail, to have the same cue, pour a mocktail, and then what's your reward? You still feel treated. You still feel like you're giving yourself like a special pampered something. You feel like you're having something yummy to drink and stuff, and you're not feeling left out. You have the same habit loop, but you've completely erased and replaced the toxin habit out of that. And then, I think it changes. Sometimes the reliance on those beverages is like stronger in the first few months, and then it kind of is like take it or leave it. But I still think it's fun, and supporting these companies that are giving us alcohol-free options makes a better society. Like, I truly believe that. And so I will be supporting them. I recommend them. And I think they're really great alternatives in changing your habits, because otherwise it feels like willpower and it feels like you're being deprived, and it's not sustainable over the long term.
I love the way you pulled Charles Duhigg's book into that. Well done. Brilliant. So I've just got one last question. And that is this. It's very obvious what has been taken away. Alcohol's been taken away. And, for whatever we've discussed, there are one or two experiences, I'm sure, that alcohol was fun, and it gave you a fun time or whatever. But what has being alcohol-free given you?
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to be overly dramatic, but I think it's easy to say that many people fall asleep at the wheel of their lives. We get into our routines, we get in our habits, we get into this idea, I have to get a paycheck, I have to provide for the family. We have midlife crises or horrible diagnoses to finally wake us up from this sleepwalking we're doing, where we have this one life and we're not very intentional about how we live it. If anything that an alcohol-free life has given me, it's this huge awakening to ask myself, who am I really, and what do I want to do with my time on this planet? For so long, I wouldn't allow myself to even think of those things, because it was just, okay, got to keep with the routine, got to keep with this, got to keep up with appearances, got to do what everybody else wants, get my MBA, do this, get traditional success. It's given me the awakening to actually know what I want and to really solidify and clarify my dreams and give myself the belief that I can go after them. So something really interesting happens when you start going on a break, because one, it's not normal. Most people aren't not drinking, they're drinking, right? So you start to go like a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, like without alcohol, especially when that was your like normal. You start to get really proud of yourself. You're like, oh my gosh, I just hit 3 weeks. I just hit 50 days. And that pride and confidence starts to spill out in other areas of your life. Because if you can do this one thing, this thing that you thought was really hard and that everyone has to do, what else have you been telling yourself that you can't do, but really you can? And so within my first year, I launched a business. Oh, trust me, I never thought I could be an entrepreneur. I thought that was for like tech guys from San Francisco. Like, it didn't even enter my worldview that it was possible for me. I wrote my first draft of my book. I ran a half marathon. I launched a podcast. I did all these things in just my first year because I was really like expanded on that belief of what else can I do? What if, right? And I just kept exploring it and exploring it. I mean, I can't even imagine what my life would be like. I mean, would it be this horrible, like I said, rock bottom kind of catastrophe? I don't imagine that would have happened. But I would have just stayed asleep at the wheel. And then what would my wake-up call be? Would it be a horrible diagnosis later on because of that? I mean, I'm so lucky in a way that this was my wake-up call. And I don't think I can ever go back to falling asleep again, because my personal growth, my intentionality, my connection with my spiritual growth, emotional growth, intellectual growth, my capacity for courage and getting out of my comfort zone has just grown tremendously. And it's going to keep growing. And that's another thing that's so important. One of our deepest human needs is to grow. When we stay stagnant, we're not really staying stagnant. We're slowly dying inside. Our human body, everything in the universe was either meant to grow or to die. And if you're not growing yourself, you will feel the effects of that unfulfillment and that malaise. And so this has given me the gift to go on a perpetual, never-ending growth journey where I continue to push myself outside my comfort zone, go for new challenges, learn new things, meet new people, and apply and learn and learn and learn. And it's just been the most fulfilling thing ever to have this new growth-minded mindset, and really these dreams that I never ever thought were possible for me unfolding every single day.
I love that during this conversation, you mentioned that, you know, you'd drink at the weekends, and every week you'd wake up with that feeling that we all have on the Monday or whenever it is that you stop drinking, and you say, I'm not going to do that again. That's not good. And you then do it again, and you chip away at your self-esteem. And then you've given up drinking, and you realize that you can do more. You build your confidence, you build your self-esteem, and now you're unstoppable. You're this juggernaut of I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. I mean, your energy is fantastic. You know, just sat here now. I'm going to go and skip off and do something after this. I don't know what, but I'll do something. So yeah, that's wonderful. And I mean, we're at the end now. I've taken up a lot of your time, and I'm super grateful for it. What time did you say it was over there?
It's 7.
Where are you exactly? Is it
San Diego, California?
San Diego, right? Cool. What's it like? What's the weather like?
It's chilly, but it's still very sunny, so we're very lucky.
It's not fair. yeah, it's really sunny here too. Yeah, it's boiling. No, I'm really, really grateful. Did you want to plug your social media or any projects you've got coming up?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a free course as well for anyone who's interested in taking some of these concepts that I talked about and applying it to their own self-discovery and introspection, especially those beliefs that are keeping us stuck, that are really conditioned into us to believe from a huge, huge marketing. You know, the alcohol industry is a $252 billion industry, right? Like, so anytime like you have to ask yourself, who is this serving? Is it serving me and my growth, or is it just serving the pockets of the alcohol industry? But anyway, taking all of these concepts and applying them to your life is, and my free course, it's called the 5-Day Restart. And you can find that at my website, www.euphoricaf.com. And then also find me on social media. Instagram is euphoric.af. And that stands for Euphoric Alcohol Free, because that's what I am. And I love to help other people discover the same sense of passion, purpose, and self-discovery as they go on their journey. You know, I think that when you reevaluate the role of alcohol in your life, that's really what you're doing. It's a personal growth journey because you're getting to know who you are, what you want, what you need. It's not a question of a weakness or you're broken or you can't hang or handle it. It's taking the stuff away that doesn't serve you so you can discover what really does.
I think we'll end there. Thank you so much. Yeah, what beautiful words you've had to say today. I'm super grateful. And Karolina, thank you so much for your time.
Well, thank you so much. I had a great time.
Yeah, me too. Thank you.